Hey guys, how are you today? My name is Ryan Kostrowski. A lot of you probably watch me routinely. I'm usually on here giving advice on who you can look at that day for NBA, MLB, NFL, whatever it might be, as far as playing daily fantasy sports. Today, as opposed to talking about which guys you want to look at tonight, I've already put that video out. I want to discuss what I'm going to say 5 key things that if you aren't doing them, you need to be, and if you are doing them, good for you. But these are 5 things that you need to look at when you are playing fantasy basketball on DraftKings or FanDuel. These are things that really need to be done, advice that will really help you continue to win more money or will maybe help start letting you win more money. So, number one. This is probably well known by a lot of you, but you really, really need to be by your computer for that last hour before tip off. Uh, Fantasy basketball on DraftKings or FanDuel is seriously affected by guys who are in or out and usage rate for players and how it's going to be affected that way. For example, I think everybody who does this routinely knows that if Kevin Durant sits, Russell Westbrook seems to put up 75, 80 points. You need to know things like that. Basketball has a ton of late scratches, and those will affect not only that specific guy and the backup filling him in around him, but how much other guys might see the ball. For example, if Carmelo Anthony doesn't play on the Knicks, then it's very likely other guys around him have to step up and shoulder more of the offensive load. So if you cannot be by your computer, tablet, whatnot for that last hour before tip-off, don't play that day, or if you're like me, at least bet a little bit lower because there's a chance you might get burned by a late scratch or you may not have the right guys in. Some great information comes out 10 minutes before tip-off. It's crunch time. It's really hard. NBA fantasy basketball is the hardest on the daily side, so know that you need to be around that last hour. Okay, next up, you need to pay for help. And I don't care if you're me, one of the other, one of the pros out there, or just some guy starting. You need to pay for assistance. Pay for advanced stats. There's lots of great people out there. I think we're all pretty well aware of Fantasy Labs, Roto Grinders, places like this. But not only will those advanced stats help you pick out who you are going to use that night, it's going to help you know who the field's going to use. And for me, that's part of the great part of it is if I see that Al Horford, for example, is on everybody's list, but I just don't think Al Horford's going to do very well for something that I know that maybe other people don't know, I can know to get away from him. I also helps me know percentages because in cash games I don't care about those, but I know who the chalk's going to be. So I know if I play this guy that soars, a half the other people, I'm not going to get burned too much if he has a bad night, for example. So you need to pay for assistance. At the end of this video, I'll tell you how you can get aligned with me and how I can help you. But even if it's not me, pay for some help. And I call that being dollar smart or not being penny wise and dollar dumb. Spend the $100 on some service for those advanced stats, and you can know the field more, and it's going to help you with some guys that maybe you wouldn't have noticed otherwise. I didn't do it, and I can tell you since I paid for a few people earlier this year, my numbers have gone from good to great. So definitely pay for some extra help. Okay, number 3. It's more about a system than it is about picking guys. I often have people, ask me, well, who's the best players to play tonight? Well, if somebody's projected for 5.8 times value and 5.7, it's so close. You can pick any one of these guys. You need to develop a system where you get exposure to certain people, what's going to work best for you. Now, for example, this is my system, and I'm going to say that my system won't be right for everybody. I know some of you out there are college kids. $100 is a lot of money to you, so you can't take the wild up and downs that the life of a tournament player is going to have. I can. I'm a little bit older. I'm fortunate enough to have a pretty good job, so income is not an issue for me. I can take a $100, $200 swing. That's not really a big deal to me. On the flip side, if you put your last $100 into DraftKings and you can't afford to put more in, but you don't want to stop playing, you really, really need to live on those cash games. For me, let's pretend that I bet $100 a night. I'm going to put about $60 to $70 into cash games typically, maybe sometimes more, sometimes less, and then put the rest into tournaments. Tournaments is how you're going to make your real money. A couple weeks ago, I won $6,500 off of a $3 bet on the $3 sharpshooter, but it's not like that's just the one time I played that tournament. I play that tournament 5 to 10 times a day, and I have a system set up in my mind where I can get exposure to all the key guys in a night, or at least key guys I think might have a chance to blow up. You got to develop a system that works for you. It's less about picking guys, and I did that for years thinking that's the way to go, but got to develop a system. You can listen to me or you can listen to anybody else out there, but know it's more about the system than just picking certain guys for that night. That's why guys who know sports sometimes get a little annoyed with DFS right away because they think they know the guys so well, but they don't have a system set up in place for themselves. Okay. You need to learn the difference between upside guys versus consistency guys. Guys that I'm always targeting in cash games are going to be your Carmelo Anthonys, your Pau Gasols of the world, guys who play lots of close games, typically get their minutes, and are very, very steady all the time. If you look at Carmelo Anthony, he's always got a price tag somewhere around 8,000 to 8,500. He always seems to score between 40 and 50 points. That is a great cash game play. Pau Gasol's kind of the same way. Well, then you got to look at tournaments. You got to look at guys like a Nikola Jokic or a Rajon Rondo, guys who fluctuate big time, very capable of giving you 6, 7, 8 times value on any given night, but know that they have a downside as well. Nikola Jokic is one of those guys, maybe I think his price tag's like mid-fives tonight. He could easily give you 50 DraftKings points, and he could easily give you 5. You don't want to mess with a guy like that in cash games. You do want to play him in tournaments, though, because you need to get 6, 7, 8 times value in tournaments. To win a tournament, you need to be 325 minimum, all the way up to 350, 375, 400. Cash games, the cash line usually comes in around 250, maybe a little bit higher, even a little bit lower on some nights. So 5 times value is what you need. Got to know the difference between those guys. Okay, lastly, you got to watch Vegas or however else you figure out what games are going to be close. A key part to NBA daily fantasy basketball or daily fantasy sports is knowing that you guys are going to get their minutes. Minutes equal points most of the time, right? So you need to understand things like, is James Harden going to play a close game tonight? If James Harden plays a close game, he's almost always going to hit value. He's so heavy tiered on points in the fourth quarter when they usually just let him go nuts. Last night was a perfect example. You need to know, is that going to be a close game? If Harden's on the road at Warriors, that's always a game where he could get blown out and may not get his fourth quarter run. So you really pay attention to what games are going to be close and how that's going to affect certain players. On the same side, if you got the Lakers traveling to Golden State, you know that backups might be the way to go, because it could really happen where Steph Curry could come out, hit 5,000 threes, the Warriors are up by 50, Steph doesn't play in the fourth quarter, or Klay Thompson doesn't play in the fourth quarter, and that'll have a big effect on it. So those are 5 tips that should help you win. A lot of you probably know all those already, but if they helped you in any way, that's fantastic. If you're looking at getting some assistance, you can get on board with me. I run a private Facebook group, which is only for quality members, paying members. You get a lot of great insight in there, a lot of great info. You can get on there and onto my private email list. Private email list members will get my cash lineup and 2 tournament lineups from me every single day. Not every single day, 90% of days. And you can get onto the private email list and private lineup list for only a one-time payment of $100. That squares us forever for all 3 main sports: baseball, basketball, football. I know all 3 of them. I know nothing past them. I don't know golf. I don't know NASCAR. I don't know MMA. But those 3 sports, while I'm still new at this and while I'm still building a customer base, one-time $100 payment will get you all 3 sports for $100, payable via PayPal. Look down there below in the comment section for any information on me and how you do that. Email me directly with any questions, and I'll be more than happy to answer. Good luck. I hope every single one of you wins a GPP and wins some serious cash. Thank you for following me, and have a wonderful day.